Well, I'm super delighted to be here. I'm kind of a fanboy of both Lincoln and Carl, so I feel all the more delighted to follow um, two of the most sane and steady voices on the internet. So thank you. Um, all right. Our favorite atonement descriptors. Go. Let's hear. Infinite, inexplicable, incomprehensible, um, inconceivable, and a couple references, so you know I'm not just making this up. Um, and rather than getting caught up in these abstract descriptors, I want to talk about the atonement as an instrumental cause. Uh, Actually, sorry, before I get to there. So with these hearing these descriptors over and over, we may be tempted to conclude, so it's like an Escher painting. And rather than getting caught up in these descriptors, I want to talk about the atonement as an instrumental cause. And to talk about it as an instrumental cause is to talk about how the atonement, or if we talk about a baseball bat as an instrumental cause, we're interested in an outcome it brings outside of itself. So we could look at a baseball bat as an instrumental cause for hitting a home run. We're not looking at how beautiful the wood on this baseball bat is, or how fine the craftsmanship of this baseball bat is. We're looking at an outcome it can bring about outside of itself. And when we talk about the atonement, I'm interested in what kinds of human behaviors the atonement can promote. Another idea I want to get out in front of is communicable. That communicable goods are goods that can be communicated to those outside of our little group. So if I'm talking about communicable religious goods, I can't say I really enjoy my religion because it allows me to perform religious ordinances. Because people outside of my religion aren't going to appreciate that as good. It's mostly going to be appreciated by those inside my community. But I can say something like, I really enjoy the opportunities to do local community service that I get through my religion, because that can be appreciated as a good by those outside of my community, my religious community. So I want to talk about communicable goods in terms of what we're aiming for. And a way to set up a kind of rough framework for my presentation, I thought it'd be fun to look at this dichotomy. On the one hand, we have hymns like "How Great Thou Art," "I Stand All Amazed," "Sing His Great Name Alone." And on the other side, we have lines like "With hands now pledged to do thy work," Carl Youngblood's translation, "We are his thousand hands," of Norwegian, "O come all ye faithful," is that right? And "Then let us in his footsteps tread." Where on the left hand, we're talking about this special and removed being. And on the right hand, we're talking about something that is a model and an instigator for action. Okay, enough kind of throat clearing. I'd love to start with this poem. Since I heard it, it's been one of my favorites. It's by Rilke, and it gestures toward the fights and victories that matter. And I'll return to some of the lines of it at the end of this presentation, and hopefully we can read our experience in response to the atonement better for it. What we choose to fight is so tiny. What fights with us is so great. When we win, it's with small things, and the triumph itself makes us small. What is extraordinary and eternal does not want to be bent by us. I mean the angel who appeared to the wrestlers of the Old Testament, when the wrestlers' sinews grew long like metal strings. He felt them under his fingers like chords of deep music. Whoever was beaten by this angel, who often simply declined the fight, went away proud and strengthened and great from that harsh hand that kneaded him as if to change his shape. Winning does not tempt that man. This is how he grows, by being defeated decisively by successively greater beings. If we approach religion as a tool for promoting the best forms of human activity, which I think is an appropriate approach, we can look at humanity as a trajectory and view the appropriate work of religion as building a bridge between current human activity and God, which God we can conceive of as the full and highest flowering of human potential, morally, creatively, and physically. We can cast this work of bridge building as another religious term, atonement, or bringing humanity at one with God. Through this lens, becoming more like God is the aim of our activity, and the work, any work by anyone, of bridging the gap between humanity and God is the work of atonement, or in other words, is practicing atonement, which is a term I got from one of Lincoln's great talks. In this presentation, I look at the atonement of Jesus Christ as an instrumental cause. I demonstrate that seen in this light, it can inform and elevate moral behavior in ways that resonate with both religious and non-religious people. I argue that Jesus' atonement is a call for us to follow his example and take responsibility for evil and death in the world. The atonement of Jesus Christ is constituted by the acts through which Jesus accounted for and overcame the consequences of death and evil. It's the central doctrine of Mormonism and Christianity in general. And exploring the atonement of Jesus Christ as an instrumental cause for human behavior means asking what behaviors the atonement prompts, promotes, and provokes in humans. A basic premise of my presentation is that religious teaching should promote communicable goods, or behaviors that can be appreciated as good by people outside that religious community. This is not to say that there can't also be internal goods. In this case, as the central teaching of Mormonism, we should be able to see how the atonement of Jesus Christ promotes behaviors in Mormons that can be appreciated as good by non-Mormons. So a quick test for this would be to ask, so what behaviors does the atonement prompt, promote, or provoke in Mormons? But here, we're pulled up short. The conventional ways we think about the atonement promote attitudes and responses that vary from passive to merely self-centered activity. For example, we point to the atonement as the abstract means through which injustices in the world are resolved. We might say something like, though the world may seem unjust, a loving God has provided a solution. The answer is the atonement. Through the atonement, all sins, through the atonement of Jesus Christ, all sins, all disappointment, all suffering, all pain, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, all evil is accounted for, and justice will be meted out with perfection. We also point to the atonement as a singular act that demands gratitude and awe. We might say, though we can never fully comprehend it, we can begin to appreciate the infinite, incomparable, eternal atonement. It is the critical element in the plan of salvation. Through the atonement, Jesus not only experienced each individual's griefs and pains across time, culture, place, and age, he carried the full weight of all sin, suffering, turmoil, and death from all ages, and how grateful we must be for that. Theologically speaking, this may be the case, but in terms of the human behavior we're promoting, it's troubling, because not only is the atonement used as an important sounding abstract idea that we can understand, it could conceivably be and has been invoked as a rationale to not address current evils that we could. Moreover, it burdens Jesus with the entire weight of evil and death and turns his acts into an object of mystery and worship, which tends to turn us off from doing what we can to counter evils and prompts us to only be grateful and awed. Mr. Davis might think it's okay to not do anything to help people who are starving, even though I can, because the atonement will make things better for these people in the end, and how grateful and how wonderful the atonement is because of that. I don't think this is an appropriate response and not a good attitude, but it can be a well-meaning attitude and a mechanism to cope with seemingly intractable evils in the world. And these responses frequently invoke the horrific suffering of Jesus and the adjectives that we talked about, infinite, incomprehensible, that underscore the mysterious and singular quality of his suffering, of his atoning work. And I'm not arguing that Jesus' atoning work wasn't mysterious or wasn't singular, or that his suffering wasn't horrific or worthy of worship. I'm arguing that emphasizing those instead of acknowledging those tends to weaken its instrumental value for improving our behavior. What we tend to lose in our emphasis on the mystery, the singular quality of Jesus' atonement, is a vibrant here and now response that follows his example by taking on evil and working to heal the current world. And in terms of its instrumental value for provoking improved behavior, it's not clear what we gain. As an instrumental cause, the closest we get is to celebrate that the atonement makes repentance possible. This is probably better than the previous examples because at least we're talking about what activities, what actions we can take, and we're not just talking about passively receiving blessings or a mostly non-physical exercise. But I still find this too self-centered. This response puts the focus on personal change for the better. I need to stop swearing. I need to stop having bad thoughts. I need to be nicer to others. I need to forgive that jerk who cut me off. I need to fix any way that I may fall short. Moreover, this response has more fundamental shortcomings, as I discuss next. In short, there are bigger fish to fry. In general, the way we teach the atonement, it's a weak instrumental cause, or more accurately, the responses we encourage are weak or unfit the atonement due to fixations on personal sin rather than evil, a future life